letting them in.
Welcome. It is great to have you join us this Wednesday afternoon, the 17th of February. Just really excited to have everyone join us. And yeah, I just want to say welcome. My name is Nicole Mitchell, and I'm part of a team called Uncovering Greatness. And I also work with an organization called Advanced Coaching and Leadership Center, which is based in Dallas, Texas in the US. And I'm really excited today. I have a qualified processor with me who's joining me today, and that is Kirsten. So Kirsten, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Nicole. As you said, I recently qualified as a processor, which is really exciting and helps sort of fit into my model of what I do as a biokineticist, which helps restore people's communication within their body and then with themselves and in life in general, where processing comes into play. So it's a really nice marriage of two different sort of concepts, and I'm excited to be able to use it to help other people in life and to get what they want. So thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Kirsten, and thank you for joining us. And it is just, I'm really, really excited today, because today we're going to be looking at a lot around, power and pretty much, what is it that makes some people weak and others powerful? And so really just want to look at that. But just before we get into that, I just want to check in, and if you guys can hear us, if you can just type welcome into the chat box, because it's really great to know that everybody can hear me and everything's working. So awesome. If you are on Facebook, we would love to say welcome to you. So if you're on Facebook, feel free to type into the chat box as well. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, just really, really excited for everybody joining us. So as I was talking about, is Advanced Coaching and Leadership Center was founded by a gentleman by the name of Alan C. Walter. And Alan designed what we call the zones of life. And pretty much the zones of life is, where are you in the zone? And many of you have heard people talk about being in the zone. Oh, that person's in the zone. It just pretty much means everything's going right place, right time, right things happening, everything's going well. So Alan broke it down even more, and he designed the zones in terms of where are you. So we've got the red zone, the yellow zone, and the green zone. And how did he come up with those zones? Is pretty much he was driving home one day and stopped at a traffic light, and he was thinking about the people he'd been working with, a group of insurance people, and he couldn't get them to do what he needed them to do. And he was like, oh, these people are stopped, just like I'm stopped at the traffic light. And he took the traffic light and flipped it upside down and went red, yellow, and green. And that's where he created the zones from. And it's just, I think it's such an important piece of knowledge, is being aware of where do you sit in the zones. Are you red zone, are you yellow zone, or are you green zone? And what areas in your life are you in those different zones? Because for some people, they'll have relationships in the green zone, but money and finances is in the red zone. And other people have, business in the green zone, and then they have, sports and health in the red zone. So it's just important to be aware of what area in your life, and what zone you're in. And then what is the predominant trait that you're in? And a lot of people today are not even aware of their red zone. In fact, people that are in the red zone are generally people that will tell you that I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me, it's all your fault, and you got a problem, not me. Anybody relate to that? If you're watching, if you're on Facebook, or type red into the chat box if you can relate to people that that do that, and they just go, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, and they say it in that exact tone. And you know, it's your problem, it's not mine, you know. So it's just important, I think, for each one of us to acknowledge, where are we? And for me, I started my journey with Advanced Coaching and Leadership Center, and I found myself down here in the bottom of the red zone, very, very red zone, and I couldn't understand why. My life looked great on the outside. I didn't have to work. My kids were healthy. My husband and I had a great relationship. And I couldn't understand why I didn't have the energy to get out of bed in the morning, because everything looked great. And the biggest reason for that is what we term life force particles. And it's just, do you have enough life force particles? And how many do you have? And the biggest thing about life force particles is the more, and we could call them life force particles, you can call them energy, potential, there's a whole lot of different terminologies, but for today we're going to call them life force particles. And because it's our life force, it's the energy that drives our life. So it's so important to be aware of, do you have a lot of life force particles? And if you don't, where are they? And how do you get them back? So, and this is such a key thing around what we're going to be talking about today, around, you know, what makes people powerful and what makes some people weak. And it is around life force particles. Do they have enough life force particles? And if they don't, where are they? And what are they doing to get them back? So before I carry on, Kirst, is there anything you would like to add?
If I can unmute myself, yes. Yeah, it's just a really great thing to be chatting about at the moment, because if you don't know where your life force particles are stuck, or if you don't even know what they are, how are you going to use your energy and your potential to get what you want? So I'm very excited to be chatting with you about this, and yeah, looking forward to hearing what people have to say if they have any questions afterwards. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And yeah, so, you know, it's one of the key things is, if you look at the people around you, are they red zone, are they yellow zone, or are they green zone? And in terms of your business, the people around your business, are they red zone, are they yellow zone, or are they green zone? And what, you know, I think it's Robert Kiyosaki says, it's not Robert Kiyosaki, but I know he uses the terminology as, you know, just look at take the average of the 5 people you hang around with, their average income, and that'll be your income. And it's the same with life force particles, because if you're sitting in a space where your life force particles are trapped somewhere else and you're sitting down here in the red zone, there's a pretty strong chance you're going to be hanging around with red zone people and you're going to be employing red zone people. And, you know, it's just, and then you'll go into a different space and go, well, why are these people so happy and everything looks so great? And, you know, this environment is so amazing. You know, why isn't our office like that? And it's not so much about what you're doing, but it's about, where are you in the zones? And can you recover your life force particles, and can you help those around you recover their life force particles? And that's how you help people move into their power. And when you're operating in your power, then you can do a lot more. You can create a lot more. You can have a lot more. So I don't know about you, who would like to operate in their true power? So if you'd like to operate in your true power, if you can type power into the chat box, that would be great. Okay, Margaret says power. Okay, so far we got one person that wants to operate in their power. Dylan says power. Capano, Marina, Robin. Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm driving.
Okay.
I'm driving. Can I be allowed to say power out loud?
Yes. Thank you, Mbali.
Thank you.
So yeah, and it's so great that, you know, because it is, everybody, when you're operating in your power, things are going well. When you're operating in your true power, you are, you know, things are working. It's like, I've often used the example of having a green zone day. You just get out of bed and everything works. It's amazing. You know, you find money in your pocket, you park and right outside the supermarket, and you know, there's the very item you're going to get is on special. And it's just one of those things where everything just goes right. And that would be a day that we are operating in our true power. And when we're not operating in our power and we don't have a lot of life force particles, it would be a red zone day. Everything's going wrong. You know, you can't seem to find your car keys. You can't, you drop your coffee all over your white shirt, or you spill it. And then, you know, if you've got animals, one of them runs down the road and you've got to go find them, and it makes you late. And there's, you know, when you're having a red zone day, it just feels like nothing's working. And why? Because we're not utilizing our power. So how do we start to utilize our power? So the first thing we look at is life force particles. So this is my jar of life force particles. You can see it's got a tag on it. And this was a gift to me from my family for my birthday last year. And yes, the speckled eggs have been filled up a couple of times. I haven't stayed. But I know that when I'm triggered and I'm having a red zone day, my go-to is chocolate. And my go-to is, you know, a pick-me-up so that I can sort of feel like I'm in my power again. And everybody jokes that those are my life force particles. So when I'm in a bad mood, you know, I guarantee my family are going to bring me a packet of Willie's speckled eggs because they know it'll shift my mood, and they tease me about it. You know, oh, those are mom's life force particles, speckled eggs. But it's so important to understand the dynamics of what's happening, more so than, you know, in terms of it's around those, for me, represent life force particles. And how do I get my life force particles back? Well, one of the big ways is we start communicating. Are you aware of who you're communicating with, how you're communicating, when you're communicating, and are you able to say what you want when you want to say it? And before I carry on, Kirsten, is there anything you'd like to add about life force particles?
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so the one thing that comes to mind is just, yeah, when you're not able to understand or know what your life force particles are, it's hard to know what it looks like when you have them or don't have them. And also, if, like you say, you use chocolate as a pick-me-up, I mean, I find myself when I'm having a low day and I'm like, I need energy, so I go and I eat something or go look what's happening in the fridge. And it's yeah, one of those easy ways to sort of find your energy and pick your mood level up. But just by realizing that, oh, something's not right, I've been triggered by something, my energy level's a little bit low, it's easier to go back, look what happened, check where my mood level is, and be like, oh, okay, cool, that's what happened, unpack it a bit or phone a friend. So like you say, get into communication is probably one of the easiest ways to, I say easiest, the best ways to get your life force particles back. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. And it's like a great way to put it into perspective is, you know, at the moment the jar's full, so it's great. But what happens when the jar's half empty? Or what happens when the jar's empty? And if you think about it in terms of your car, or let's say your body, what happens to you when you get hungry? When you haven't eaten for a day and you come home and you've had a really hectic day and you haven't eaten the whole day, what happens to our bodies? They get tired, they get slow, they get lethargic, and we don't know how we're going to make it through the day. Well, the same thing is happening in our lives. We just don't realize it. And that tiredness and that fatigue sets in. And a lot of people today can't get past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not because they're not eating properly, not because they're not doing the right things. They just don't have enough life force particles, which is enough energy to get them through the day. And which is one of the things that people, they lose their power because, and it's kind of like, as you know, I think of a boat, when you or let's, one of those wind-up toys that the kids have, and they put them in the water and they go, and then they slowly start to just kind of fizzle out. And that's what happens to us in life if we're not aware of our life force particles. And if we're not aware of what zone we're in, because when you become aware of what zone you're in, immediately you have a point A that you can start at, and you can say, right, my goal is to work towards a point B. Because otherwise we're going through life going, oh, I just wish I had the energy. Oh, it's so exhausting. And we actually don't have a goal to work towards other than, I wish I wasn't tired. Or I wish I had more energy. And we have no idea how to get that energy. And so one of the things that I mentioned a little bit earlier is communication. So if you just take a 3-year-old and you look at how they communicate, a 3 or 4-year-old, they know exactly what they want, and they are not afraid to tell you. They have no shame, no guilt, no nothing, no reservations. I want that, and that's it. And in that moment, and they are not afraid to express their emotions. They're not afraid to ask you 50 million times until they get what they want. Because why? They have a ton of energy, and they don't hold back. There's no hold bar. And it is so important to realize, are you treating your life like that? Are you going after your dreams and goals with that kind of energy? And moving forward, and in terms of your businesses, are you like relentless about getting sales? You're going back, you're servicing your customers again and again until you get the sale. And I'm not saying that you act like a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old and throw a temper tantrum with your customers, please, no. It is around doing it in the right way. But if we go back to that sort of 2, 3, 4-year-old, they know exactly how to express their communication. If they're upset, they tell you. They know exactly how to express themselves. And then, but when they are upset, when they are having a temper tantrum and you're trying to reason with them, how easy is it to reason with them? It's really, really difficult. Why? Because they're upset and they can't communicate what they want, because now that you haven't given them what they want, and now they're upset and they've thrown a hectic temper tantrum, and now they're so upset they can't even talk to you. But then what happens, as soon as they snap out of it and they pick themselves up, they go, oh, okay, and they're on to the next thing. It's almost like they flipped a switch. And then suddenly now they can communicate with you. Now they can tell you everything's okay and what they want to do next. And that's how fast they recover their life force particles. They flick the switch and then they recover all their life force particles. They go, okay, cool. Okay, I can't have that. Okay, cool. I'm not upset anymore. Right, I'm going to move on and I'm going to move to the next thing. And as adults, what we tend to do is we tend to stew in the upset for 2 hours, 4 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks. And I'm having a chuckle because Kristen and Queen are both laughing. So the 2 weeks. But it seems silly when you say it like that. You're stewing over a jar of speckled eggs that you told me I couldn't have from 2 weeks ago. And as adults, you kind of go, that didn't make any sense. But we still do it. And I think of families that got upset with each other and don't speak to each other for years because of something small and insignificant and really, but they got their life force particles trapped in that incident. Then they don't communicate because they're upset. And then they wallow in the self-pity of that negative thing. And Kristen and I were talking about it earlier around, being in the negative or being in the positive. And, the positive, who wants to be in the positive? I mean, it's no good for anybody. Like the negative is like, woe is me. Oh, I can be a victim. I can feel sorry for myself. you know, oh, I can claim attention, I can blame everybody else, and I don't need to take responsibility for anything, and I can, you know, just, oh, I'm so sad, I'm just going to climb into bed and not do anything. And then at the end of the month, we're pissed off with everybody because no sales were made for the month and there's no money coming in. And it's like, but it's not your fault, it's everybody else's fault. And then we go more and more red zone, and we trigger those things inside of us instead of looking at it and going, what's happening? How do I communicate where I'm at? Who can I talk to push this stuff off of me and move from here into here? And essentially what we do is when we move into the red zone, we turn our power against us and we use it to hold ourselves small, to hold ourselves back, and essentially we fight with ourselves instead of going out and creating something bigger and using our power in the positive. So yeah, Kirst, anything you'd like to share on that?
Thanks, Nicole. I love the analogy of a toddler, because I think I read a quote or something by someone once who said that when we exercise and sleep and look after ourselves, we should treat ourselves like a toddler, how we should reduce our intake of sugar and eat all the healthy foods like you would control that environment for your toddler. You should do it for yourself. And it sort of reminded me how you speak about power, and and I'm sure no one's ever had this journey in their life before, but if you wanted to lose weight, for instance, and you don't know how, you're like, well, this is how I'm stuck in this place where I've put on 10 kilos. I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't know what to do. And you read about some fad diet. I won't name any of them, I might get into trouble. And so you read about some fad diet, you try it, it works great, but then you get triggered into some past behavior and you don't know what's trapped that life force there. And so you go back to eating the way that you did and finding all the sugar and the sweets and that sort of thing. And then you're like, well, that diet doesn't work. It's the diet's fault. I did everything I was supposed to. I'm not going to follow that one. And you find another one. And so you end up on this roller coaster of being in the red zone when it comes to your weight and all of that sort of thing. And when it would be really helpful to just pick up the phone and phone someone who can help you get the right knowledge, help you unpack what it is that your body needs, where you need to go, and help you establish the communication within yourself and learn what your body needs and what your body wants, rather than picking a diet and saying, well, it's the diet's fault, it's the diet's this, it's the diet's that, and help you to figure out where you are in relation to the zones, and just how to get yourself up into the green zone again by releasing some of that power and using it, yeah, like you say, in a positive way instead of against yourself and blaming everyone else for it and being upset about it, because it's, especially in that area, very easy to be a victim to that sort of thing, because it supports the narrative, oh, I get to eat all the sugar and the chocolate and all those nice things. So yeah, that's what came to mind.
Thanks, Kirst. And yeah, you just reminded me of, you know, it's like an athlete, Matt Fraser, who he is, I'm trying to say a whole lot of different things at the same time, so my communication's not coming out right. So he has won the CrossFit Games 5 times in a row, or 5 years in a row. He's supposedly, you know, one of the fittest people on the planet. And I was reading some of his stuff around what he did before it came to the CrossFit Games, and how he, even to the point that he didn't ride his motorcycle so that he didn't hurt himself, and he, you know, he literally put himself in a bubble for a couple of weeks before the games so that he could protect himself, so that he could win the games. And all the things he did with his mind, and he didn't have conversations with certain people, and he just, you know, in terms of things like that. And you kind of look at it and go, well, that's extreme. You know, that you're not even going to ride your own motorbike. I mean, to go to you do that every day of your life. You ride your motorbike to, you know, to the gym every day. But, you know, for a month before the games, you don't ride your motorbike. I mean, hello, you haven't hurt yourself for 2 years. And you kind of go, well, that's extreme. Oh, that's really extreme that there's certain people you don't talk to for a period of time before the games. Oh, wow, that's arrogant. and we kind of put all this judgment on it. But when we look at it, all he's done is he's created a safe space for himself and his life force particles so that he can direct his energy all and totally only into winning the games. And that's why he's done it 5 years in a row, because he's so focused and he's so, like, he doesn't talk to certain people because he doesn't want his attention to get stuck in their drama or their issues, or he doesn't want to hear any bad news. He doesn't want to hear anything that's going to take away from his mind what he wants to achieve. So he becomes absolutely, totally focused for that period of time. And it's such a great analogy, because what he does is he makes sure that all his life force particles are being saved and being directed into his winning the games. And in terms of sleep, he has a set sleep pattern. He knows he goes to bed at a certain time. He wakes up at a certain time. There's daily routines that are not negotiable for a period of time. And too many of us negotiate those things. And like Kirst was saying around, we kind of go, oh, you know what, this diet isn't working, and it's not really what I want to be doing. So you know what, I'm just going to go and see what's happening in the fridge. And we kind of go and then we kind of go, oh, I don't like anything. I'm going to go raid my pantry, and we go find something that we would never ever eat on a regular day, but it's something that doesn't even taste that great anyway. But we'll go eat it because it instead of looking at it and going, where am I putting my life force particles, and how can I create it, or what am I trying to create, and where else can I go and look, where else can I, and instead of protecting our life force particles and our power, we kind of just give it away. We kind of give our power away to the food and all those other past incidents that are triggering us. And I use that analogy because a lot of people are doing that in their business too. They're kind of going, oh, you know what, I'm tired, I'm not going to make those calls today. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, you know what, hey, there's some COVID stuff that's happening, and I don't know if we're going to look at doing this stuff today. So, you know what, everybody, you can go home and we'll come back tomorrow. Instead of going, hey, COVID's happening, it doesn't matter, we want the stuff done anyway. It's not negotiable. And we kind of give our power away unnecessarily, and most of the time it's even unawarely that we're just not present. We give it away, and then we kind of go, oh, what happened? And we just gave our power away, instead of looking at, how do I get my power back? How do I, and what are the things that I need to do to get my power back? And it would be the same in terms of if you had an injury. If you've got, say you've got a sore knee, you're not going to keep walking on that knee until the point that it's, well, and I say you're not going to, I know certain people that do this, but they, and Kirsty's seen people like this, but they know that something's wrong, and they do keep walking on it. But eventually you get to a point where it's not going to work anymore, and you need to go and see the doctor. But the flip side of that is when you're an athlete and you're working towards something like a goal, if you had, the minute there's a little niggle in that knee, that athlete, a professional athlete, is going to be seeing a chiropractor, a biokineticist, a physiotherapist, or a massage therapist. They're going to be seeing somebody straight away to sort that out as fast as possible before it gets any worse. And they protect and they bring in their power so that they can keep their power focused on their goals and dreams. And whereas the average person today is kind of going, oh, you know what, when I get some time, I'll go and see the doctor about it. And then suddenly 3 weeks have gone by, suddenly it's 3 months, and then suddenly it's not just a little twiggle on the knee, it's a big lump or a big limp, and or whatever it is, and we kind of have let it go. And that's what happens in businesses and teams. We let things go. We let people get away with stuff. We kind of go, oh, you know what, it's okay, we'll sort it out next week. Oh, we'll sort it out next week. And suddenly 3 months have gone by and we haven't sorted it out, and suddenly everyone's grumpy and upset and red zone and wanting to kill each other. And so is this making sense to you guys? If this makes sense to you, just type sense into the chat box. And yeah, Kirsten, anything you want to add on that?
Thanks, Nicole. One of the things that, excuse me, comes to mind is there's a sort of definition of power where power is your ability to hold a position. So to be able to hold a position, you need to first find a position. So knowing what you want, knowing what you're working towards, creating those points A and Bs are so important, because it allows you to have somewhere to direct that power. And so if you aren't certain on what you want and you start negotiating with what you want, or you're allowing other people to dictate what you want, then it's going to, like, it sort of gives me this image of someone being thrown back and forth in the waves of the sea. You're just going to allow that power to push you around, and you're going to assign it elsewhere and that sort of thing. So it's a really good thing to be able to focus. Like that example of Matt Fraser is great, because he was so focused. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to achieve. And by having that really solid position, it's easy to know exactly where you're going to send your power out to. And instead of being like, well, I don't know and I'm not sure, and then you eventually start imploding it on yourself and telling yourself how useless you are, and I can't do this and I can't do that. And it's what I see, like with that patient you say that gets the niggle in their knee and then can't walk after 6 months because they've just left it for so long. They eventually get to the point where, well, I can't do anything anyway, so I'm not going to go on the family holiday with my family. I'm not going to go walk on the beach, which I love, going to the sea. And you start really taking things away from yourself and away from life, where if you know what you want and you can focus it in a more positive direction, it really helps you create the results that you want. So yeah.
Thank you. And Kirsten, maybe you can share a little bit around how that, in terms of communication, because communication is not just around, talking or speaking to other people. In terms of, I know this is something you're really passionate about, is being able to communicate with your body. So maybe you can just chat a little bit about that.
Sure. Thanks, Nicole. So I'm sure there is a study somewhere, because I have read this somewhere, but I couldn't tell you. But basically your thoughts, the things that you think about yourself, they actually have an effect on you at a cellular level. So when you start thinking like, well, I can't do this, my knee is sore, I can't do that, you actually stop the communication to that area. And specifically, if there's an area of pain, it starts to stop that communication. You're like, I don't want to experience that. I don't want to even know about it. I'm just going to pretend that it's not there, so I don't have to look at it and I can carry on with life. And so for me, working with the body is all about restoring those communication patterns to areas where you have decided and intentionally removed your focus from. And yeah, what comes to mind is I had 2 patients when I was an intern, and both of them, it was really great. They had the same doctor, they had exactly the same op on their knees on exactly the same day, like 3 hours apart. And the one lady who had this really positive mindset, and she was like, she knew what the process was. She was determined. She had a goal to get, she was working towards after her op. And within 3 months, she was walking, like she had a knee replacement, and she was walking, she was going on holiday with her family, and everything was working well. The other lady, it was still a year later, and she was having a niggle here and a niggle there, and things weren't quite going the way they should. And there was nothing much different in their cases. They were approximately the same age as well. It was just very interesting. And it just made me realize it's the way they were communicating with their bodies, and the fear around, well, what if I do this and I hurt myself, or I can't do this, I'm going to go back 10 steps instead of going forward. And it all starts with how you think and those thoughts that you have and how you send that to the rest of your body. And that starts inhibiting or helping what you want and what you're trying to achieve. I hope that made sense.
It does. Thank you. And it's funny because as you were talking about, different areas in your body and the thoughts that affect your body. And I'm pretty sure that, people can relate to this. Suddenly you've got to go to the dentist, and suddenly a couple of days before the dentist, you start getting an ache in the side of your jaw, and it's like, and all these things. And then you go to the dentist and he says, no, everything's fine. And you walk away and it's like, oh, wow, my mouth's fine, And it starts in our mind, and it's how are you communicating with your body? Because it's that, I've got it in the back of our mind. It's like, I'm going to the dentist, and suddenly we activate all the muscles in our teeth, because we know that's where the doctors. I just realized what I said, the muscles in your teeth, that is hysterical. The muscles in your jaw where your teeth are. So anyways, communication is very powerful. Can make all of you laugh. But anyway, so it's important to know that, you send that communication. Suddenly I'm going to the dentist, you activate all these muscles and all the nerves and everything in your jaw, and suddenly you start thinking about them. Is something wrong? Is what's happening? And suddenly now you're connecting to it, but are you connecting in the right way? Are you sending the message of, I hope there's nothing wrong, or are you sending the message of, that positive energy? So it's such a great analogy in terms of our bodies, because it works the same in our businesses. Are you doing the same with your teams? Are you connecting with them in a positive way? Because a lot of people think they're connecting with their teams. They think they're communicating with their teams, and they're not actually. They're just telling their teams what to do. So it's like somebody trying to, saying to somebody else, you need to be able to, you should be able to do that. The brand new person walks into the gym, and somebody says, oh, you should be able to do a handstand push-up, and everyone's like, what? And in your business, is that how you're communicating with your teams? Oh, you should be able to do that, or you should be out selling, or you should be out. So how are you communicating, and what life force particles are you using on the people in your teams? Because this is such a key thing in terms of, in order for people to operate in their power, we need to be communicating the right things to them. We need to be encouraging them. We need to be saying to them, do you need help? We need to be, and it's not about somebody that's a victim and needs help, and we're always, babysitting them. No, what kind of help does that person need? That person needs help to be kicked out the door, and to be, it's like a little bird that needs to fly for the first time. Often the help that people need is to be kicked out the door and just go do it. But are you aware of that? Are you aware of, when you're communicating with your teams, are you communicating the right things? Are you communicating it in a green zone way? Are you helping them, or are you hindering them? Or are you just leaving stuff and letting it go? Because when you communicate the right things at the right time, you help people operate in their power. If somebody's submitting and this would be an example, if somebody submits a report to you every week, and you go, what are you doing? Like, these numbers are not in the right place. What are you doing? And then the next week they come back and there's another line, and you go, yo, you got those ones right, but now these ones are wrong. You put these ones in the wrong place. Eventually what's going to happen to that person is there's going to be so much fear around submitting the report that they're actually not going to want to submit the report. And then they're going to be so terrified to submit it, because what if I get criticized again? What if they tell me I've done it wrong? What if they, instead of going and saying, hey, can I show you a way to fill this out? Okay, now show me what you understand. And yes, sometimes it does feel like, oh, I've got a team and they should be able to think for themselves. But it's just, be aware of, are you empowering them, or are you disempowering them? Are you putting them into their power, or are you putting them into a place where they're turning that power into fear and using it against themselves? Because that's what makes people weak. when we are continuously knocking them, telling them they're wrong, telling them they made a mistake, telling them they should have, and you know, it's just, are you asking them what help do they need? Do they understand why you need the numbers in a certain place? Do they understand the reasoning and all those things behind it? Because I mean, for me, I've learned that when I'm operating in fear, it takes 3 times as long for me to do something. When I'm operating in my power, it's like it's quick, boom, boom, boom. And I can get a report done in half the amount of time. When I'm sitting in fear, I'm looking at it 5 times going, did I put this here? Did I do that? Did I create all the right things? Have I crossed all the T's, dotted all, is everything perfect? And I'm reviewing it 50 million times and redoing it 50 million times. And, you know, in terms of your businesses, it's the same thing. If your employees and your business partners are operating in their full power and it takes them half an hour to do a report, boom, and then how much more time do they have to go out and sell and build your business, as opposed to when they're spending 3 hours doing that report and double checking it 5 times and, oh, I hope I've got this right. And then because they're in fear, they're not operating in their power, they generally make a mistake anyway. And then it is. And so it is important to understand, are you empowering your team to recover life force particles, or are you disempowering your team to lose life force particles where they get stuck in fear and anxiety? So it's just, you know, in your businesses, just be aware of that, because it's the little things that we think are unimportant that probably have the biggest effect on people. And like that little niggle in your knee, when you're out of communication, you think it's not that important. But trust me, the professional athlete, it's very important. And in your business, you need to be treating things that they're ultra important. So yeah, Kirst, anything you want to add to that?
Thanks, Nicole. It's just, yeah, that analogy you used at the end there about treating things as being important. Like Alan speaks about how your wants and your dreams are, you know, the most valuable things that you can have, and treating them as such would, yeah, definitely go a long way to helping you send your power out in the right direction, help empower those around you to help you get what you want, and vice versa. And there was a point to what I was saying. But if you're like, especially as a business owner, because what comes to mind is me and my business at the moment, you know what you want. If you're treating it as the most important thing, and like everything relating to business is that important, you are going to make sure that you do those daily disciplines, that you're sure that you're communicating to the right people in the right way so that you can move forward. Because generally businesses, well, most of the ones that I know and partake in, are there to help serve you and serve other people. And so by doing that, you're going to help serve your customers even better, just by working towards what you want, because that's why you created it in the first place. So it's yeah, just a really great analogy to treat your wants and your dreams as something that is ultra important, and to remind yourself of that every day, that that's why you're going to work, and that's why you have your team around you as well.
And yeah, and just it's also important to, you know, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee, whether you are a family member, it's all the same principles that apply. And it is, you know, it just be aware that the same thing, you know, it just because I'm referring to a business or a business owner, it doesn't mean the same principles don't apply. If you're an employee, it's the same thing that applies. It's the same principles and standards that you've got to look at in terms of, you know, are you communicating to your boss? Because that's one of the hardest things employees struggle with. They don't say anything to their boss. Their kind of boss comes in and everyone goes, oh, we need to sit and behave. And, or the manager or whoever, instead of being able to communicate with them and say, hey, you know, I'm really struggling with this. And it's so important to have that flow of communication, no matter where you are in the cycle of life, whether it's relationships, whether it's, family, whether it's businesses, employees, whatever it is. It's important to have that flow of power, and we do that flow through communication. So just be aware of, are you communicating the right things to the right people at the right time? Because if you've got a problem with your boss as an employee and you're communicating it to your coworker, how's your boss ever going to fix anything? Or your manager, and vice versa. If you're the owner of the business and your employees, and you're telling your business partners about, and you're complaining about this employee that never does the right things, well, how's that employee ever going to know that they need to change? So it's so important to be aware of, are you empowering people with the right tools, the right tips, that ability to communicate? And yeah, it's important to be able to take feedback. If somebody comes to you and says, I'm really pissed off with you and angry with you and upset with you, don't go back and say, well, you should have done this, and you find out why. And then you kind of go, okay, great, thank you. I didn't intend for that. Okay, cool. Right, done. Next, move on, like the toddler that didn't get the flipping life force particles out of my sweetie jar, that they just threw a temper tantrum. But as soon as the tantrum's over, they kind of let you know that they were angry, and then they kind of moved on. And as parents, if we reminded our toddlers of every little bad thing that they'd done and every temper tantrum that they'd thrown throughout the day, we wouldn't stop talking, because they do. It's an emotional roller coaster in an hour of a toddler's life, but we don't sit there and go, well, you were so naughty and you misbehaved and you did this wrong and you da-da-da-da-da, and we don't go on about it for 2 weeks. But yet, as adults, business owners, employees, family members, we do that. And it's, instead of just getting it out and over with and just saying what needs to be said, not take offense from it, and just take the feedback of it and go, okay, great, you're right. I shouldn't have done that. I could have done it better. I'm really sorry. I will look at it and see, and I'll be aware of it next time. And even if you feel like you didn't do anything wrong, that's okay. It's okay to go, cool, thanks for the feedback. And you can walk away and go, geez, I don't know what they're talking about. I haven't done any of that. Well, great, cool. They feel better. You don't take it on, and the communication's out in the open, and you are enabling everybody to stay operating in their positive power. But the minute somebody comes and gives you feedback and you defend and you go, no, I didn't do that, and what happens? You turn all your power into the negative, and they then turn their negative power back on you, and you don't speak to each other for a couple of days, hours, weeks, months, years, which it doesn't need to happen. You can sort it out. So I really would encourage you, keep those lines of communication open, put the honesty in there, be prepared for feedback, be prepared that it's not going to be easy. But what it'll do, it'll allow you to operate in your true power, and it'll allow your teams and the people around you to operate in their true power. So, yeah, anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, just what comes to mind is, when you're holding on to something that you need to communicate, it ties up a lot of your energy just trying to keep that to yourself. And when you're around that person, like, I better not say anything at all, because otherwise it might just come out, and you end up tying up this energy and life force within yourself and turning this negative energy on in yourself. And when it eventually does come out, it generally does not come out in a very pretty way, as you described. And it's not really an optimum way to do it. So it is difficult. Like I said, it's not easy. It's a simple solution to just be honest and to say what you need to say it in the right manner to the right person. And also saying it to 5 different people before you get to the source of it is probably not also optimum. And just go to that person, say what you need to say, because it's sitting there on your mind. Get your attention off it and go forth and conquer the rest of your day without having to worry about what you need to say and not say to certain different people. And you can focus your attention on the things that you actually want to focus them on.
Yeah, and then you become in a place where you're operating in your power, and you're operating in your positive power, and you're doing the right things. You're making a difference in your business. You're making a difference in the people and the business teams around you. So it's important to understand that it just starts with that awareness of where are you in the zones. Do you have enough life force particles? And if you're in a place where you're going, I don't need any help, I'm fine, everything's great, what I can tell you is you're probably in the red zone. Because people in the green zone are wanting to grow, they're wanting to get better, they're wanting to improve. People in the red zone are going, everything's great, everything's fine, I don't need any help, I'm fine. But people in the green zone are going, yeah, I want to get better, I want help, I want to shift and improve. And so, and I say that if you are sitting in a space where you're going, I don't need any help, I'm fine just the way I am, I don't need to do any, personal development, I don't need to do any reading, I can almost guarantee you 99% of those people need help. 99%, if you're one of those people that are sitting there going, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, everything's great, there's a pretty strong chance you're either in the yellow zone or the red zone. Because people that are in the yellow zone and red zone are not interested in getting life force particles back because they don't have the energy to get their power. People in the green zone are always looking for ways, how do I get more power? How do I become bigger? How do I increase my game? How do I move to the next level? How do I become more? How do I help more people? Whereas people that are sitting there going, everything's fine, they're not focused on moving forward. They just want to get through survival. Does that make sense? And if that makes sense, if you can type green into the chat box, that would be great, because it is important for us to look at, that it is making sense. So Queen says green, and Bali says green, Yvonne says green. Okay, awesome. Michelle says green, Tavo says green. Okay, awesome. So yeah, it's just, it is important to look at that and go, okay, cool. I need to shift and I want to get bigger. And how do you do that? You communicate. You find out, you do your research, you kind of connect with Google, what's out there, what do I need to get better at? And you open up those communication lines and those connection lines so that you can start to grow and expand. So yeah, communication is really, really powerful. And, being aware of where you're at will allow you to expand and grow. And yeah, just on that, we've been doing the Green Zone Daily Challenge. And I know there's a couple of people on the call that have been doing it for 3 weeks now, which is really, really exciting. So if you have been doing the Green Zone Daily Ritual for 3 weeks, if you can type 3 into the chat box, the number 3, that would be awesome. And even if you haven't done it every day, so Kapana, great, that is awesome. 3 weeks now, fabulous. I know there's a couple of other people that have been doing it for 3 weeks now. Yvonne says 2, so great, that was going to be my next thing. If you've been doing it for 2 weeks, that would be great. Margaret says 3. So if you've been doing it for 2 weeks, type 2 into the chat box. And yeah, just we had some issues with that Green Zone Daily Challenge in terms of being able to save it. So a lot of people have been using it, but haven't been able to save it. And every day you've got to go back in and kind of, work out what day am I on, where am I? So we're very excited that we have updated it and we have managed to fix it. So now that you can save it, and Sully's put it into the chat box, which is great. We're also going to send out an email to everybody that is using the Green Zone Daily Ritual, so that you can use it and use the one that saves. And yeah, if you are not using it, I really would encourage you to go and check it out. Go and look at the 30-day challenge and see, could you start today if you haven't started? But because it is a really powerful tool to use. It's really simple. It's not going to cost you anything. It's just you can go and look, and there are 3 tips and tools as to how to create a more green zone space for yourself, your employees, your employers, the people around you, your family members. And I really would encourage you to, if you haven't started using it, just be deliberate at using that 30-day challenge. Do some presence, acknowledge your wins, and just be, write out a daily goal and just start putting yourself in the green zone. It doesn't take a lot to do it every day, but it will make a significant difference. So Sully, thank you for putting that in, those links into the chat box. Really, really grateful to you. So thank you. And also to Tabo for doing all the follow-ups and things like that. So just, yeah, we will email the link out to everybody that's registered. But yeah, keep doing the challenge, keep growing. Next week, we are going to talk a little bit more about the challenge and see, because we'll be at week 4. So yeah, just want to get a good idea of where people are at, what they've seen. And before we end off, does anybody have any questions? So, and while they're typing questions into the chat box, is there anything you would like to add, Kirsten?
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, the only thing is around the 30-day challenge. Like, I find it very challenging most days, just especially around sharing wins. But it's like what it creates in my mind is just this sort of scaffolding that you build for yourself, where you can flow your positive energy through. So by acknowledging your wins and what you're grateful for, and especially setting a goal for your day, it's just a really powerful tool to be able to direct your positive flow of life force, and also make you aware of what you need to communicate to people if you've set your goal, or if you just want to express to people what you're grateful for, if they came up when you're writing down what you're grateful for, or if they've helped contribute to a win, or whatever the case may be. I found that that's been a really helpful thing for me to do, to be able to celebrate my wins, is acknowledge the people who've helped me to get them as well. So yeah, that's all I'd like to share.
Great, thank you. And yeah, it is a great analogy of the scaffolding for which to flow your power through, because that's exactly what it is. It's just everybody's looking for ways to increase their power, and it's just something small and simple, but it will make a significant difference. And so it is just, when you set that daily goal, as Kirsten said, suddenly you're aware of, oh, I'm grateful for this person, or, oh, I want to connect with this person, or I want to reach out to this person, or, I want to do this, or I'm going to use my power to do this today. And it just makes it so much easier and creates a lot more flow in your life. And that's what all the green zone is. There's lots of flow. There's not a lot of resistance. There's not a lot of red stoplights that you're going to hit along the way, like driving down the road and hitting every green light. That's what's going to happen. So we have a question. So Capano says, so Nicole, for clarity, why do you say the speckled eggs are your positive life force? So do you eat them when you need to lift your life force, or are they a symbolic example to make you conscious of your life force? So you are correct on both fronts. When I'm in, it's like when I need energy, it's like, and I'm in a foul mood, my family bring me speckled eggs because they know it lifts my mood, because it gives me energy. So, but it is also it is very symbolic of life force, because if I were to empty this jar out and take half the jar away, suddenly I'm taking half my power away. And it's a visual of, if we're collecting our life force, it's just, the visual of the jar is that we can give our life force particles away, and we can also collect them. So the power is that the symbolism of it is we have, if we are the container through our life, there are times where we are collecting our life force particles, and there are times where we are giving our life force particles away. And you just think of when somebody comes in and they upset you, like you should have done this, da, 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 and they vomit their stuff all over you, and you go, oh, and suddenly all this guilt and shame arrives, and you're so embarrassed that somebody came. And what happens is immediately we give our life force particles away to that person, or we are triggered or reminded of an event where our life force particles were trapped from before, and we have an option. We can leave our life force particles there with those people and those trapped incidents in our past, or we can go, cool, I want to get my life force particles back, and we can recover them and fill our jar up and fill our container up. And the more life force particles you have in the jar and in your container, the more energy you have to get through your day and create the right things. So it's a really great representation of it. And I mean, eggs represent new life. And so that's the other example, the representation of the eggs represent new life. So, and, the more eggs we have, the more chickens you're going to have, the more, the more you can create. If you think of, you're on a chicken farm, the more chickens you have, the more money you're going to make. It's the same in our life. The more energy we have, the more life force particles, the more we can create in our life. So, really appreciate the question, Kapana, because it's both. For me, it's like an instant pick me up. It's not the healthiest option. I wouldn't recommend you do it every day, but it's not the greatest thing when we look at our health. But at the same time, if somebody, like I just know, if my girls go shopping and they bring me back a packet of speckled eggs, I know I need to look at it and go, okay, cool. They're seeing something I'm not. I need to shift my behavior. So it's a great representation as well in our house, because, and then also it's become a bit of a joke. So it becomes a gift. So birthdays and things like that, I get speckled eggs, but here, Mom, save these for when you're not doing great. But it is so really, really great. And it is a visual reminder. So it is just that awareness, because often other people see things in us that we can't see. So for me, that's what it's great, because it is a visual reminder, and it's not offensive, because they come and they go, oh, Mom, we got you a gift, here you go, speckled eggs. And it's like, oh, and it's a really positive way for me to stop and go, I need to actually look at, am I sitting red zone? Is my communication not great? What's actually out? Because, and it's not offensive, because, yeah, Mom, here's a gift. And I know what it symbolizes. I know what it represents. So, in terms of your families, your businesses, you can do things like that. You can put things that are, hey, when your behavior is not great, let's give you, I don't know, whatever it is. It could be a sticky note. It could be, a smiley face, or a naughty badge. There's so many things. You can have so much fun with it, and you can make more of it rather than pouncing all over it and squashing the life out of it and making it red zone. So, but just, yeah, really, really grateful to everybody that was on the call today. And yeah, Kirsten, thank you so much for your time today. Any final words before we end off?
Just, go recover as many life force particles as you can and direct them towards things that you want, so that you can get what you want and enjoy life. That's all.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your help and all your insights and your stories. Really, really appreciate it, and sharing your knowledge with everybody. Thank you to Sully and Tabo at the back end and the Uncovering Greatness team. And yeah, thank you to the rest of the team that are in terms of processing with us. Really appreciate that. And yeah, well done to each one of you for investing in your time, your energy into the right things. And we look forward to seeing you all back here next week. So have a Green Zone week. Use your power in a positive way, and see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.